I am a intelligence analysis major at James Madison University. I have minors in both geography and Spanish. Within geography, I'm most interested with the GIS aspect, looking at satellite imagery, radar and LiDAR technology. And in the intelligence analysis space, I'm interested in looking at causal analysis or futures analysis. Both are two really interesting topics to me, and the classes that I've taken on those have been some of the most interesting that I've taken while at JMU. Outside of that, probably something that Brett and I will mention a little bit later, but we've both been working on a joint project with our advisor, one of the professors at James Madison University, Professor Peely, Dr. Peely. It is a report for the NATO Defense College on the logistical analysis of Russian artillery and how they're able to construct their artillery and also their movement of that artillery to the front lines in Ukraine, looking at logistical support, mineral gathering, and all the materials that are required to build those artillery shells. So that's just a little about me, and I'll kick it over to Brett to give a little bit of his background.
I am also an intelligence analysis major at James Madison University. One thing that I will add is with the major, we're required to have some kind of minor to essentially have an area of specialty. Ryder mentioned his, and for myself, my minor is computer science, and I think some of the things within that space that I've learned that has been very useful is process diagramming and object-oriented programming. Of course, the object-oriented programming is kind of what all that computer science stuff is mainly about, but it's just really interesting for me to see the overlap between the process diagramming in computer science and seeing what our professors do to show causal loops and just general intelligence process and how they label things. It's the same exact thing that they do in computer science for software engineering. As Ryder previously mentioned, I was also a part of the NATO Defense College paper on artillery logistics, and it was a wonderful experience, and I'm very glad I was part of it.
The one out of the three modalities that you mentioned, the one that I have the most experience in and actually have done in some of my classes is board game simulations. In a class that I took last fall, it was a introduction to Homeland Security class. So it was really focused on the Department of Homeland Security and all that they do for the protection of the United States. We talked a lot about FEMA, and there was a board game called Pandemic, and it's about working within a group. There was about four of us, and working in a group to really try to mitigate the effects that an international outbreak, disease-wise, can have. And I think that, getting paired with three people in the class that I had not met before and having to go in and really rely on everyone to do the job that they were meant to do, because each person would have a specific character. They would get a character and then they would only be able to play along the lines of that character. So when you have me, who's like a transport specialist and can move people around very easily, and the other person is the medic that can help heal cities that are plagued by this virus, you have to be able to really trust others. And I think that that is a very big part of moving into the intelligence space, whether you go into the IC or if you were to go into another aspect of private sector intelligence analysis or business intelligence analysis. Regardless of the route, being able to effectively communicate within the team in order to get to this shared outcome, this shared goal, is very, very critical. Because if you don't have that aspect, and if you're not working together to get to that goal, or one person is trying to overtake everybody else and be the one that is leading the group, even if that's not their role necessarily, it's important to be able to work with others. And not only that, but the critical thinking aspect that comes with these games. You have to plan steps in ahead. And that's something that I think these simulation games can really help students, because so much of academia is focused on, we're going to write this essay, you're going to learn all this information, and then you're going to take an exam on it, and then that's going to show how proficient you are in learning that information. But these simulation games can provide real world issues, give you training like you would have if you were in the real world working with other people. You're never working on a problem by yourself. or there's not going to be a time in your life necessarily when you're going to be studying for an exam and taking an exam again, unless you continue to higher education, a master's degree or a doctorate degree. Learning how to work with others is an integral skill that everybody should be able to know, and these games really do offer the ability and the opportunity for students to learn that. So I think that, board games like that, even though they can be lighthearted and it can be fun, can really teach you some very important skills. And other role player simulation games and computer games can also give that same experience. But I feel like the
Yeah.
in-person aspect of a board game can be really
Yeah.
key.
As far as things that I've done in class, we don't play like specific games, but we're definitely sat down and various situations are proposed to us that whether it's individually or in groups, we have to find a solution to, which I definitely think is some kind of simulation. And I think things like that very much introduce in like a student's mind actually thinking through the lens of whatever the subject is. Like if in the simulation you're Ukrainian leadership, you have to divorce your brain away from me being like an American citizen or doing what's right for America and start thinking as another subject and what would be their interest and their needs. So situations like that, I think, are very beneficial for students. And on the game side, just on my own, I love playing things like tactical shooters and also poker, not actual money, just because that's too much of a risk. Both those games, I feel like what it accomplishes is it kind of flexes this analytical muscle in your brain that like even though you're relaxing and having fun, you're having to use that analytical muscle. Because for poker, I mean, the entire thing is you need to sit there and try to figure out what two cards your opponent is holding purely based off of their betting patterns and behavior, which is incredible if you get good at it. I think at least within our major and interacting with the intelligence community outside is I feel like a lot of people go into our major thinking like a widespread thing, like every university has something similar. So when you go into a job interview, they know exactly what it is and you don't really have to explain it and like prove yourself kind of a deal. But I remember that my most recent interview for an internship, I mean, part of it, and I feel like it was a good thing because every program's different, no matter if it's, computer science, business, whatever. Every program's different, and I thought it was very valuable that just because it was a smaller major, that when I sat down in that interview, I got to go over absolutely everything that I learned in that program. And, it seemed like the people that were interviewing me were like absolutely fascinated with it. So the biggest thing is just if you're going into a major like this to get into national security, you need to understand how to sell yourself and how to talk about the program and what you learn.
The biggest thing that I've found when talking about my major and what I choose to spend 4 years studying because it's something that I'm truly interested in and loving is people often think when I say intelligence analysis, they go, oh, so you're learning how to, go into other countries and do things that maybe you shouldn't be talking about. And I was just like, well, there's not such thing as a public university that'll teach you how to do spycraft, because if so, then that would not be good. People need to understand that in our major, there's a lot of critical thinking, there's reading, there's writing, there's learning how to have intentional soft skills like communication and things like that. And when looking to the future of me applying to internships and even further down the line, once I graduate, job opportunities, the skills that I've taken from here, because as Brett was saying, it's a very niche major. There's not many schools that teach it. There's not many people that come out of an undergraduate program with the intelligence analysis or researching or writing skills. So being able to market yourself in that way is important, but also I think a big part of what's misunderstood about the intelligence training is that you don't become a subject matter expert just by going into this major for 4 years. That's why Brett was mentioning earlier that our major requires us to have that minor so that we can have that more specialized approach in one area. But often what these companies or federal agencies are looking for is that subject matter expertise. So the way that I think maybe it's shifting in the intelligence community based off some things that I've been reading for some of my classes is this more generalized analyst that when they then get into the intelligence community or into that business intelligence role or private sector role, they can then hone in a skill based on what they're interested in and what that company needs from them. So I think that coming out of undergrad, as we will be soon, having people understand that we have this very general set of skills that can be put into a very niche area, but not necessarily that we're not studying to be analysts for 4 years on China. You know, you can go and study Chinese history or Chinese culture as a minor, but we're focused on being analysts. We're focusing on critical thinking, reading, writing, researching skills, oral communication skills. So that's what I think is misunderstood often about our program. And I think that it's something that can definitely be recognized and it has its place, but also it's something that employers can look at and see like, oh, this intelligence analysis program can set these applicants up for being very teachable people when they get into the profession. The practical aspects of these majors, I think, do have a direct correlation to understanding real world issues that you will be working on when you get out of undergrad and into the workforce. Yeah, the thing that I'm most surprised about is the expertise that the professors bring into it. They have real world experience, and I'm happy that I'm able to draw on them when I'm going for these internships or just asking about their career. So they're a really, I didn't think I'd get as close with my professors as I would because they really have a lot of experience that I can draw on.
The diversity of the information that we learn, like we get certifications in AWS, which database system, as well as learning all these different analytical concepts.
With so much of the world going to big data or data analytics, I think infusing more of, or just intelligence analysis or implied intelligence curriculum with more focused data analytics classes, while we have some, I feel like that the big switch to that and encouraging students to be more proficient in that would only help their careers. I would like to see less of individualized assignments. I mean, while they're important to test your aptitude and stuff, working in that group environment and honing those skills, I think, are one of the most crucial parts of coming out of an undergraduate degree and preparing you for life after school. The more group-based work or having to work with people that work differently than you would be better. So while you still need to test your own aptitude in being able to write and read, maybe that's more so of a first year, second year. But once you're getting into the upper echelon of your classes, transitioning to a more group based where you're working through problems that come up, like social problems that come up when working in a group, that can be very impactful.
I would like maybe not so much the classes, but definitely the assignments. I would like them to be less similar to each other. Basically, what I mean by that is I very much love doing historical analysis, and I feel like I need to have assignments that force me out of that box to work on various other kinds of analysis. Diversification of the kinds of simulations that we have in class, because some people aren't trying to go into national intelligence. Instead, they're trying to do competitive business analytics. And I feel like we don't get enough of that for the people that do want that.